Government has so far paid just under 100 million rands in reparations to families of the Marikana Massacre. South Africa's Solicitor-General Fhedzisani Pandelani confirmed the claims submitted to the state have been settled and the ones still remaining are on the verge of being paid out. The state seems to have been forced to declare how much it has paid out amid allegations that it intentionally left out the Marikana claimants, some of whom are widows. Joining me now to make a sense of these allegations and more is South Africa's Solicitor-General Fhedzisani Pandelani. Fhedzisani, good to have you with us tonight here on In Focus. There seems to be a lot of confusion around how much is actually being paid. During the presentation of the panel of expert report, the police minister seems to indicate that over 100 million, in fact close to 176 million has been paid. You are reporting under 100 million. How does the confusion come about?
No, I'm not reporting under 100. In fact, the baseline budget that is paying these reparations comes from, in the main, the South African Police Service. So the figures that he might have reported on are not inconsistent with what I reported on today. Because if you add 97, just under 98 million rand, plus say 69 million rand and the other 4 million rand, you will find the same figure that has been reported. So there's no disparity insofar as that issue is concerned. Now, the essence of us, in fact, having to deal with this matter is because, you know, state litigation resides within my office. And where there are false narratives that are actually being peddled out there, either for political or other nefarious purposes, it needs to be rebutted.
Yeah.
And that rebuttal is essential because you need to produce information or proof that indeed, as opposed to those that are in fact saying we are sitting and doing nothing, we in fact are the people, or on behalf of government, we are the ones that are moving even more faster. Yeah. We want these matters to be settled.
Yeah. So let's rebut some of the issues very slowly. Let's go slowly. Yeah. I mean, one of the issues raised by NUM with us last night and the night before was the fact that they are not clear where the money has gone. In fact, they raise an issue of certain trusts who have received the money, or money has been deposited into those trusts, to law firms. I mean, I think they count 4 or so that have been paid. But they're saying with all those payments, there's no indication of the money having gone to the families, at least the ones that they are speaking to at this time, including those who were injured during the Marikana Massacre. Solicitor General, what's your rebuttal to those claims?
Yes, look, you see, from the vantage point where I am overseeing all offices of state attorneys, the allegations, and in fact, let's be frank about this whole issue. Those that would want people to believe that we are not paying any cent themselves might be having a motive. We sit in our offices, and indeed, we have invited some of the victims or those claimants to approach our offices so that they can verify that we have disbursed monies in their names. Unfortunately, we cannot actually be going to them directly because they've sought to use or utilize the services of attorneys, and they do have a constitutional right to do that. But it can't be the same claimants turning around and saying, but this government is not looking after us when we've just paid just below 200 million rand. By the end of perhaps the year, we would have paid close to 400, half a billion rand. Now, it is for those that represent these clients to be honest with them, because the figures that I'm revealing do not actually even cover the costs. Remember, I'm talking only about the capital amount. There are still associated costs that are payable to each and every claimant, to the legal representatives that might have actually dealt with the matter. So once we compute and quantify the figures, you'll find that the figure is way too high than the capital that we're talking about. So, I'm worried no end by claimants whose names appear on our database as having been paid, and the monies might not have sifted to them. It might not be true. Yeah. It might be a lie. I would know no better. Yeah. Whether that
but as far as you know, how many law firms have been paid? Because I can tell you now, yesterday, one law firm confirmed to us that they've received 2 batch of payments. One was, I think, around 69 million rands, if not 68. And they've also confirmed that they also received another 1.6 million rand. That is one law firm that confirmed to us having received those payments. I haven't heard anything from any other law firms.
Yeah,
so as far as you know, how many law firms have been paid?
We paid another 197 million rand. And of course, just on the 21st of June, 21st of June, we paid another just under 4 million rand. I'm talking about now June 2021. Yeah. So we would have paid, if you are talking about legal representatives, we would have paid 4 of them in varying amounts.
Right.
There are 2 that will be paid where we are just waiting to deal with issues of settlement.
Right. So now, if we count just those 2 amounts, they are well over 100 million.
Yeah, it is well over 100 million rand. So, as I said, the figure that the Minister of Police, in fact, intimated to is the correct figure.
Yeah.
If you add the one that settled this year, we're sitting at almost just under 180 million.
And then how is the process being followed as to what happens to that amount of money? Because the question being raised by NUM is, fine, the money is being paid into those bank accounts or those trusts. How long does it stay in those bank accounts? When exactly does it get to the people that it is meant to get to? They've not heard, for example, of anyone who has bought a house from these reparations who are now living in better conditions.
I think that's a debate that we need to have. As the state, we are not responsible for the choice of legal representatives. And again, we are disbarred from seeing what happens there because our law does not allow to go and micromanage that space. These are private legal entities that have been chosen by a client. So if you wanted to sue a government in terms of the provisions of the Constitution, you can sue government. How you go about it remains your prerogative. You could go to a private lawyer who can assist you. But at the end of the day, whether government will be blamed for your lawyer not passing on the money that in fact is due and payable to you is another inquiry altogether. From where I sit, I'm satisfied that those matters that were deemed to be payable and have satisfied the necessary metrics for payment have been paid. Those matters that remain to be paid and other aspects that in fact still have to be done, as might have been claimed in the summonses, that we will have to still do. As I'm indicating, we've made now another batch of settlement to legal representatives. Now, how they account to their client, honestly, because there is no relationship between us and their client directly, we can only liaise with them. What they do with the money, how they account, or whether there's a contingency fee agreement that has been entered into by the client and that particular law firm, we might not be able to tell. And that is where the unfortunate misstatements are being made. Because if you are at the coalface and you're sitting somewhere in some village and money is not sifting down to you, you could be told that the state has not paid us. I don't know. You could also form a view that the state is not looking after our interests. Now, the essence of me having to come out, which is unorthodox, by the way, we don't always do these things. We do these things once we see that there is a narrative that is out there which seeks to say, the state has been sitting on these matters for 9 years and it is not doing anything. We are doing everything that we can. And as I've already indicated, because we cannot claim for ourselves, we still have a constitutional duty to look after the interests of those that were injured. via the modicum of their legal representatives. And that is where, in fact, the issue might be. So accounting is not by the state to the clients themselves.
Right.
Accounting is to the legal representatives that have been appointed either by way of a power of attorney or otherwise.
Right.
If they claim not to have been paid, I've opened the door of the Office of State Attorney in Pretoria. Those that believe that they've lodged a claim, a valid claim, and have not received anything, we will in fact be entertaining them by showing them the records which particularly refer to them and not to the other one. So on a need basis, you could actually go to the State Attorney Pretoria, which has been designated to deal with these matters, to verify the facts and actually avoid or obviate the narrative that is there that says government is not looking after the claim.
Or the narrative that says the Marikana reparations are being politicized, and there's a question mark being put on the criteria. And that's why NUM is calling for an inquiry of some sort into these reparations. You mentioned also the question that you look at every application and whether they satisfy that criteria. What is that criteria?
Look, as I've actually intimated to this issue, the criteria will be where a breadwinner has passed as a result of the Marikana incident. We no longer have issues there. All of those have been paid, right? So everybody else that has lost a breadwinner out of the incident that occurred on that fateful day has been paid.
Yeah. And are they all paid? Are they all paid the same amount? Because the question is, do you discriminate?
Yes.
Because they're saying, well, death is death. It doesn't matter. If somebody died in that family, they need to be paid an equal amount.
No. That's not how common law in South Africa operates. How common law in South Africa operates is that you look at the extent. So you could invoke that principle if we were sitting around a table and say, government has got this much. We don't care how much any one of you had the earning capacity or was able to earn so much, because people don't earn the same amount of money. Others don't have the number of dependents that another person might have. So it will differ in degrees insofar as your standing in life is concerned from a financial point of view. So if you earn 20,000 Rand, for example, and I earn 2,000 Rand, and we all perish from the same incident, circumstances are all the same. The only differentiator there is you had a better earning capacity, or you were earning more than I, and therefore compensation can never be pegged at the same amount. So that is one thing that is looked at. We also look at the age of the deceased. Now, the younger you are, the more prospects that you would have been able to look after those that are depending on you. However, the older you are, we then invoke principles that are there. In fact, in terms of common law, we use actuarial calculations in order to make a determination as to a fair and reasonable amount to compensate you as opposed to me. So those are the metrics, but I think it invokes scientific as well as legal issues as to how do you make a determination of the amount.
So, I mean,
in each and every rent.
Solicitor-General, sorry, let me come in there. I mean, the argument there would be then, how do you determine my future earning capacity if my life was cut short? I could have maybe fared even better 2 years from today.
Yes, now that's why actuaries put in contingencies. Contingencies, in fact, make provision for those that all of us would not have been able to know. So there are quite a number of metrics that actuaries I would not actually even want to be one person that in fact does that scientific calculation. So we depend on actuarial calculations, and that's why people are studying actuary. They deal with these things. They deal with quite a number of other aspects as well, such as might impact on the life of somebody else. And it could be that in your case, by the time that an incident happened, you might be the owner of that station, as it were. As it is now, you are an employee. So we take all of those aspects into account. So it is not a negative assumption. We make a positive assumption as to your earning capacity in the years that, in fact, no one is able to make a determination of.
Now,
so it's always in favor of you, who has actually not you, of course, of the person that has passed on. It's never a negative one. Even a newspaper person who sells newspapers in the streets, we make an assumption that he would not have wanted to be a newspaper vendor for the rest of his life. He might have actually wanted to be something else.
Now, there are over 200 or so, maybe even more, who were injured. I'm not quite sure at this particular point. As far as you're aware, Solicitor General, have any of those been compensated?
From the side of the state, as I've already indicated, there is one law firm that had claimed for 275. Those are injured. Those are not dead. Those are still alive. And what you needed to get there were medical reports, the extent of the injuries, whether you've got a broken limb, and so on and so forth. And that is why compensation can never be the same. Because some will just have a bruising, some will have a scar, some have got broken limbs, some will need wheelchairs going forward. So from the 275, as I actually indicated during the press conference, we have in fact paid for almost 254, if I'm not mistaken. When you just subtract 22 from that list, and we have paid just under 98 million rand.
And those who are mentioned as being seriously injured, I'm not quite sure what the criteria of seriously injured would be, and where they paid differently.
There are two firms that are actually dealing with those serious injuries. Let's just correct one thing. There is arrest and detention. There are quite a number of heads of damages that in fact are there. Arrest and detention, injuries. The serious injury matters, the two batches of matters as at the moment, is what we are actually trying to settle. But from the 275, whether they are arrest and detention and related aspects, we have in fact paid just under 98 million rand.
Now, you are finalizing, of course, consultation with all these stakeholders. How long do you expect this process to take?
Look, we are sitting, and remember, we are not the claimants. We are sitting and waiting to be finished with all relevant information that will be required for the purposes of settlement. So we go to those that are injured and those that are representing them to say, look, we need this report, the other report, and so on and so forth, so that we can come to a conclusion. As I've already said in another platform, we stand ready to make a determination. So in relation to one batch of matters where 100% of information has been given to us, we have made offers of settlement. So how long it will take will be dependent on whether the offer is acceptable or not acceptable. And if it's not acceptable, that's not a train smash. The virtue there is that you sit around a table and try to say, here is my counter offer. So it might actually be a to and fro kind of an exercise, but from where government sits, we have made those offers. We will be waiting for an acceptance of the offer. And if payment is made, as you would know, in terms of treasury regulations, we need to effect payment within a period of 30 days from date of acceptance of any offer. And then there is the other category of batch B, where we are also saying we are going to be making offers of settlement. And again, the timeline as prescribed by treasury regulations will apply once the offer has been accepted unequivocally. Because once you accept offers of this nature, you cannot accept it half-heartedly to say, I accept this offer, but you need to, in fact, say, I accept this offer so that when we pay you, you don't ambush us tomorrow by saying, but you have not paid me each and every cent in the rent.
Solicitor General, we appreciate your time and, of course, coming out, as you're saying, in these unusual circumstances to clarify these matters with us tonight.